Hi, this is Kevin with Naples Lawn Service, and today we're going to be doing a video on how to change your oil in your Super Duty diesel. So the first thing you're going to need is some oil. This is SAE 10W30 diesel motor oil. Now it says in the owner's manual you can use different types of motor oil. This one here is for Super Duty formula, and I'll show you on the back here. It says recommended for use in Power Stroke diesel engines above 0 degrees. And if you're below 0 degrees, you're supposed to use Motorcraft SAE 5W40 full synthetic. And it also says on my oil cap that if you're going to run severe duty all the time, maybe you're in extreme climates, maybe you're hauling 20,000 pounds, and I guess you're supposed to use this 5W40 full synthetic. But I'm just normal application here. So I do towing, but really nothing over 11,000 pounds. And a lot of my towing is only 5,000 pounds. But and the rest of that's just driving. So I'm going to go with this, what it says here. Super Duty Formula SAE 10W30 diesel motor oil. Now you can get this on Amazon or Walmart or auto parts store or whatever. But I like doing everything OEM and doing it by the book. And that way, if I ever have a warranty issue, they got nothing on me. Here's your filter. Okay, this filter is FL2124S. Okay, that's your oil filter. This is the box. This is the actual filter here. Okay, you can see FL2124S. It's got that rubber gasket there. Always make sure you put a thin coat of even the used old motor oil. Just put a thin coat on that before you screw that on. And initially, when you take this off for the first time, make sure that gasket didn't get left on the frame of your engine. If you take this off and it's missing a gasket, make sure it's not on the frame of the engine still, because if it is, those two gaskets stick together and you're going to have a leak. So you want to make sure this gasket's in here and the old gasket is off. And what I usually do too is I'll tear this off the top. I'll go ahead and write down my mileage and the date, and I'll stick it in the glove box. And that way I know. Of course, your truck, if you reset your reminder on your truck, it will also tell you. Now here's your oil filter wrench. You may or may not need this depending on how strong a grip you have. Here's your ratchet. I got a 1/2-inch ratchet, 16mm socket, funnel, and a rag. Now I'm going to drain in a 5-gallon bucket today, and then I'm going to put it in the old containers and take it back to the auto parts store and put it in their recycle blend. Most auto parts stores will just let you bring in your used motor oil. You got a little tank in the back. You just pour it in there and throw these in the garbage, and that way they can recycle that oil. You don't want to dump it on your property or nothing like that. You want to take it in and do it the right way. But unless you've got a 15-quart plastic oil container, you better use a 5-gallon bucket, because this takes 15 quarts of oil for these diesel engines. So this is a very easy process. That's all that you're going to need. Anybody can really do this, as long as you can get the nut off, and that's not usually a problem. And you can save a lot of money, and you can save a lot of waiting around time from taking it into the dealer. Okay, so you're going to put your ratchet, 1/2-inch ratchet with your socket on over that bolt, and you're going to take it off. Making sure your bucket's underneath there. And when it gets easy, you can just use your finger and your thumb to take that off. And it's going to take a few minutes to drain. So you're just going to let that drain, and you can start working on your oil filter with a separate bucket. Okay, now while that oil's draining, that bucket there, if it's a 5-gallon bucket, true 5-gallon bucket, it should hold 20 quarts. So you're only going to drain 15 max. So that should work. Now you put a separate oil pan underneath the filter, because when you crack that filter, you're going to have a little bit coming out of there also. So if you can do this by hand, do it by hand. Otherwise, you can use your filter wrench and go counterclockwise. Okay, so we're going to spin this one off by hand here. And as soon as it's off, we're just going to turn it upside down in the oil pan and let it drain. And we're going to check and make sure the gasket came off with the old oil filter. And we're going to wipe off the frame and make sure that, not the frame, but the housing for the oil filter. We're going to wipe that off around that circle there and make sure we do not have an old gasket stuck on there. Okay, now when we spun off that filter, sure enough, that old gasket stuck to that housing, that steel housing that's around that filter. So that gasket's got to come off there, and then you're going to put the new filter has a gasket in it, and you're just going to take a thin, on the end of your finger, thin coat of oil, and you're going to put it around that gasket on that new filter. So when it does spin on, then it's going to seal. Now, I've only ever had this happen a time or two where, and it was always on original from the factory oil filter that they actually stuck to the housing like that. It's not a big deal. You just pop it off. But I've had it happen twice, both on brand new vehicles. And after that, I've never had it happen on a oil change that I'm doing down the line. But just be sure that you check for that, because if you had a new gasket and old gasket squeezed on there together, you're going to have a leak, and you don't want to have a leak. Now, any excess oil that dropped onto the frame or any parts of the vehicle, wipe that off clean, because you don't want to think you got an oil leak when you don't. And you are going to drop a little bit around on the truck and the frame, so take a rag and clean all that up nice. So now we're ready to put the new filter on. We made sure the old gasket came off. It did. We're going to dab on the end of our finger some used motor oil, and we're just going to run it around that seal so it'll go on nice and the seal will remain the way it was designed. And we're going to screw it on. Now, you don't want to cross thread this, so make sure it's going on easy. If it goes on hard, then you probably got it wrong. So just make sure that it's not cross threaded and it's spinning on there nicely all the way up till it touches. Okay. So when you got it almost tight, you're going to get it on there snug, but you should go about 3/4 of a turn around past where it first went snug. And that's all. When you don't have to use a wrench for this. You just use your hands, 1 or 2 hands, just get it on there tight, and then you go 3/4 of a turn past, and that thing's not going to go anywhere. All right, so this plug here has a rubber gasket on it. Make sure that's still on there before you go putting it on. You're going to start out by just thumb and finger. You're just going to tighten that thing up as far as you can. Then you'll use your wrench to tighten it up the rest of the way. All right, so now you're just going to tighten it up the last little bit with your wrench. You want to have it on there tight, but if you're a big, strong He-Man dude, you don't want to overkill it, okay, and strip out those threads. I've never done this, but I'm sure it could be done. So just put it on there reasonably tight. I'm not sure what the torque spec is on this. You can look at it. If you have a torque wrench, you can look it up and see what your torque spec is. But otherwise, just put it on there tight. I've never had a problem in 45 years. I've never torque wrenched any of them. Okay, so you've drained all your oil. You put your plug back in. You've changed out your oil filter. You've wiped down your frame and everything. Cleaned up down there. Now it's time for up here. Now here's the cap I took off. As you can see, it always tells you what to use on the cap. SAE 10W30 diesel. Right here. SAE 10W30 diesel. Okay, and it says for severe duty or biofuel, you're going to use this F5W40 diesel synthetic. All right, and this oil fill is with that cap I showed you is on the driver's side of the vehicle up by the firewall, and this is where you're going to fill up your new oil. Okay, now you want to take your cap off. You should end up breaking this ring right here. This ring should not be already broke. And then you should have this seal on there. If this ring's broke or that seal's missing, take that stuff back where you got it from. Because I honestly believe I bought one of these from Walmart one time in the store, and I came home to put it in my vehicle. This was missing. This was cracked. I honestly believe somebody used the oil, put their old oil back in there and took it back to Walmart, and they got a refund. So that only happened once, but just make sure this seal hasn't been broke. You can peel that off, or I just use a fillet knife or a steak knife or something, because these things are glued on so tight. It's not even funny. So I usually just go like this. You know, I'll cut it and then I'll just peel it off. Just make sure this doesn't drop back down in your oil, so you don't put that down in your engine. Okay? And then you're going to put a funnel in it and you're going to start filling it up. Yeah. And you can see how clean that oil is coming out. If you tilt this quart sideways like I'm doing it and pour it like this, you'll get more air in it and it's going to flow a lot smoother versus having it up vertical. So what I'm saying is just lay that horizontally there, and that should be a lot easier. We'll give it a minute to get down in there, and we'll give it a little bit more. And you want to have 15 quarts in this thing. Okay, so now you just take your funnel out of there. You're going to wipe that out so it doesn't attract any sand or anything. You're going to put that cap back on there. And the next thing you're going to do is start up your engine. Let's let it run for 30 seconds so your filter gets full of oil, and then we're going to check the level. Okay, so now we're going to check the oil. Usually when you start it up after an oil change, it's going to put some oil in that filter. So it's better to check your oil level afterwards. Make sure it's where it should be. Just pull this out, run it through a rag just like that. And just to show you on here, probably have to get it in the light, but it's going to be somewhere in this hashed area. Hopefully it's going to be right in the middle. Well, let's check it out. Okay. Make sure you push it down in there all the way and then come check it out. Okay, it's right in the middle of the hashed area. Let's go over to some light. It's right here in the middle of the hashed area. So that's about where you want to have it. This will be completely slap full up here. This will be completely slap full. And this will be low. You need to add oil. And we'll go ahead and do it one more time just to make sure. Getting an accurate reading. Okay, so you're going to wipe this off. You're going to put it back in there. All right, and we'll go over to the light. And there you go. Okay, now, when do you change the oil? You look at your owner's manual. My owner's manual says every 10,000 miles, or when the smart computer on your dash tells you, because it might be 10,000 if you're all street driving. Maybe you're hauling trailers or heavy loads, and maybe you're doing it a lot, or maybe you're just idling a lot. Okay, so my computer told me by 8,900, said you're down to 1% oil life. Okay, so I went ahead and changed it. So I'm just going to write down 9,000 and the date on the back of this card. Here's the little card I tore off the top. I write it down and I just shove it in my center console or glove box. And that way I'll have an idea. If the computer ever gets it wrong, I'll know exactly when I change the oil last. And the maximum you want to go is 10,000. This one ended up to be 9,000 because my computer told me that it was time. All right, now this particular truck is a 2024 Super Duty. It's almost 6 months old, and we're going to do another video on this. I've done one when I bought it brand new, but we're going to do another one with a 6-month review, and it's coming right out here next, and I'm going to show you what I think of this thing after my 6-month review. All right, I'm going to show you how I dispose of the oil. It's not a big deal. You just take those 3 original jugs, you put a funnel up there. Here's your oil. Better if you have 2 persons doing this. So I'm just going to tell you about it. But one person holds the jug in the funnel, and don't hold the funnel in there tight. It needs a little bit of air flow. So just hold that funnel off there about 1/4 of an inch. Let somebody fill you up. I think there's windows. Yeah, there's windows at the end. It'll show you when it's getting full. And you just pour that one in there, and then in here, and then in here. And you put your caps back on, and around here, in South Florida, we take ours down to Advance Auto Parts. They got a tank in the back, and you just go back there, ask them for permission. They don't care. And you go pour these into the tank in the back, into the recycle tank, and then you just throw these in the garbage. Don't leave their jugs there for them to clean up. Just throw these in the garbage, and then wipe that out with a rag and bring it, and you're good to go. And that's how you're going to safely, without messing up the environment or without being sloppy, that's how you're going to get rid of that oil next time you're down near your local auto parts store. It's very easy. Okay, so now our bucket's empty. We filled back up these, and these are going to the auto parts store. And by the way, these oil filters, these are about 20 bucks in Advance, or you can get them anywhere. These are about 25 to 30 a gallon. So you're about 110 bucks or so, 100 to 110. Well, let's see, 75 plus 20 is 95. So you're anywhere from 95 to $110 for all of this supplies, but your labor was free. So I would keep all of your receipts for your oil, and a video is good, but I would at least keep the receipts, because if they ever challenge you on a warranty over something like that, I've never had it happen. I've been buying, selling, changing oil in my vehicles for 45 years now, so it's not a big deal. But I would keep the receipts anyway, in case you were ever questioned or challenged on how often you change oil if you had a warranty issue. But it's very easy to do. You can lay on your back under the truck, or you can use a creeper with wheels on it. But it's very easy to do. I've been doing my own forever, and you'll save a lot of money, and you won't be sitting around the dealer in the waiting room waiting for your turn. So time is money. You're gonna have a lot more time on your hands than sitting around at the dealer. So that's how you're gonna do it. Okay, and one last thing I always do is I always crank it up and let it run for a minute or two. I get underneath there, shine a flashlight, just make sure my oil filter's not leaking, make sure my plug's not leaking. I've never found one leaking, but it doesn't hurt. Just another safety check before you take off down the road. So there you have it. That's a video on how to change the oil in your Super Duty diesel engine. And if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, we're going to have a lot more videos coming out, including a 6-month review on this new truck.